Hello, chess friends, and welcome to Jozarov's chess channel, and welcome to the round 80 of the TCEC Superfinal between the two top engines, Leela C0 and Stockfish. So I didn't make videos a couple of days because I was really sick. I had a tough cold, and the worst thing that I did, I went to work, my regular work anyway, and you shouldn't do that. I went to work two consecutive days. I worked 34 hours, and I really felt for nothing. I didn't care for chess at all, and today I'm feeling a little bit better. I didn't went to work, but I think it's time for a video, and it's time to continue our very nice match game between the two top engines. And the funny thing, and I really have to say that I made sort of a prediction because a couple of days ago, my chess friend from the USA, David Haley, asked me, Jozarov, who do you think is going to win this match game? And although at that point, Stockfish was 2 points behind Leela, I said that Stockfish is going to win this match game anyway. So, and I still think I'm right because I still think that Stockfish is slightly better than Leela, and I published so many games played by Leela because there's simply one reason behind that, because I understand this winning games by Leela much more than I understand this winning games by Stockfish, because Stockfish has this deep calculations of particular lines, really these deep calculations and tactical sequences, which are really hard to understand. What are the ideas behind that? In the winning games by Leela, we had always this nice elements of a chess game, of this blocked pawn structures in the center, of this opposite side attacks, of this early flank attacks ideas, which I think I can better understand than this usual tactical ideas by Stockfish. They are really too deep for me. And you may have noticed that when I explain some games, I like to point you out these weaknesses in your opponent's positions, maybe just the regular ideas how you should play against maybe these setups, because if you start to explain this game through this tactical lines, I think we can explain this game for 24 hours. So let's see now Stockfish brilliancy. It's really a nice game because I think Leela played here without counterplay, and we have this con variation of the Sicilian, which Stockfish really crushed here. So e4 was played by Stockfish, c4, knight on f3, e6, the French variation of the Sicilian. I still think that's a good variation, but you see the problems that Leela created for herself here. I think this d6, b6 weaknesses that you will see in the continuation of the video that are really too much to handle here for black. d4, c takes d4, knight takes on d4, and now a6. This is the so-called Khan variation. It prevents this knight on b5 idea. We have maybe possibilities to play d5, but the d5 maybe after e takes d5 will create this isolated pawn situation, and here bishop on d3. This is now a very important move because after knight on f6, you see this e5 doesn't bring you so much because we have knight on d5, and then we could simply challenge the pawn on e5 with the move d6. So that's nothing special here to attack the knight. So here Stockfish castle. The queen on c7, we have queen on e2, and this is also very nice and prophylactic move because here Stockfish prepares this move c4, and with his queen on e2 he really supports this c4, and this will lead into this so-called Maroczy setup of the pawn structure in the center. And I've started, if you have noticed in my basics in chess series, of this recognition of pawn structures. What are the ideas? We had this Boleslavsky wall, which I have explained, and in the continuation I will continue, of course, with this Boleslavsky wall. Here we will see the so-called Maroczy bind setup, but by white, against the so-called hedgehog formation by black. So two familiar pawn structures. There are many ideas for black and white in these types of pawn setups. Here I think this Maroczy setup is really perfectly fine against this Khan variation. So here d6, and you see this d6 will be the main problem in Leela's position. So here after c4, I think this g6 move is really a mistake here by Leela, because You could simply develop your bishop with e7 and then go to castle. The bishop is still developed. It's also protecting this d6. With this g6, I think you created again many weaknesses on dark squares. You see around here in this position, and the problem is that you, as black, you didn't place any pawn on the 5th rank. You see, we don't have any space, any gained space here by Leela. All of these pawns are only on the 6th rank, and this is, I think, too passive to play against Stockfish. So here, after knight on c3, bishop on g7 was played, bishop on e3, and you see it's now move 10, and Stockfish already finished the development. It's perfectly fine. We can now, because it's a dynamic game, we can simply play our rooks on this semi-open files, and we will have a very nice and firm position here by white. So castling, rook from f to d1, we have knight from b to d7, and it's not so good here to challenge maybe with knight on c6, the knight on d4, because maybe white can play knight on c2 and just play positionally and slowly with moves as b3, rook on c1. So this knight on c6, maybe after ideas like b4, and then after that b5, we could create sort of an attack on the knight on c6. Here knight from b to d7 was played, maybe to try knight outpost on e5, or maybe knight outpost on c5. And I had sort of a discussion with my brother. He's also, of course, a chess player, and we discussed this dragon Sicilian defense, this hyper accelerated dragon Sicilian defense against the so-called Maroczy setup. You see, you have already played the move a6. In order to create this knight outpost on c5, you will have to play the move a5. And speaking in long terms, you have played already with your pawn on a6. Then to play it on a5, it's really lost of tempo. So we really discussed this in one conversation about chess, because you see, it's all about tempos. When I play my Dragon Sicilian against Maroczy, I play always this. I try always this knight outpost on c5, and then with the preparations, of course, with the move a5 to create sort of a blocking system on the queen side. But you see, with this a6, you have already lost the tempo. So you see, this a5 is not so good anymore. So rook from a to c1, rook on d8 was played, and now b3, simply improving the position, fixing the position. Really nice positional game here by Stockfish. Just slowly, don't rush into anything here. b6 was played, and now you see again we have a pawn. It's only on the 6th rank. Leela didn't gain some space at all, although it's hard for white to attack maybe this d6. You can really not improve the position with moves as d5, because you'll simply lose the pawn. b5 is not possible anyway. So as I said, speaking in long terms, I think this b6 and d6 are too many weaknesses in black's camp, and Stockfish, of course, will get use of these weaknesses. So here f3 was played, bishop on b7, and now queen on f2. Now you see, this target is, of course, this b6 pawn. Rook from a to c8 was played, and now bishop on f1. This is standard maneuver, this bishop on f1, and you should be really familiar with this move when you're playing this so-called Maroczy bind. I think it's deep and a nice move, because in some occasions you this position in the center may get cleared, and you will have this rook trades on the c file, and it's always good to have then this king covered, because you're not vulnerable to opponent's checks. Basically, you're also protecting this g2. You'll simply continuing your game with this very nice and firm piece structure, and I think this bishop on f1 is really a nice move. So queen on b8, and in some in some lines I have seen maybe this idea to play the queen on a8 and prepare here the move d5, which will be really a liberating move for black to really break through this c4 e4 pawn structure here in the center. But here Stockfish prevents it with moves with the move knight on a4, because we are, as I said, we are simply targeting this b6 weakness. And here I think Leela should have played anyway the move d5, because after e takes d5, e takes d5, now maybe knight on c2. Well, after knight on b6, knight takes on b6, rook takes on d8, rook takes on dx, and then now queen on bishop takes on b6 with the tempo on the rook. Rook on c8. Here maybe b takes c4 can be played, and of course white is continuing the game with the pawn up. But I think still Leela could have fought here for the draw. Here Leela played bishop on c6, and I don't think that's good, because Leela gave up the bishop pair in an early stage of the game. The position still can get opened, and here after knight on c6 we have rook takes on c6, but the position really didn't improve here for black. Still we're continuing the game with these weaknesses on b6 and d6. If you try maybe after knight on c3, here knight on e8 was played. Still you cannot play simply this move d5, b5 you cannot also play. So you see the flexibility in this game is really only on white side, and too passive. I think here the position for black, we have the knight on the 8th rank, the rooks are not connected, lack of coordination here by the pieces. I think it's too weak here for Leela. So knight on e2 was played. This is a very strong move. This is an improvement of the position. We are aiming now this d4 square, rook on c7, knight on d4. So you see Stockfish managed to transpose this knight on a more active square. You see this is sort of a tricky knight on d4. If you try e5 to kick away the knight, then you get again a knight on e2, knight on c3, and then you have a weakness on d5. So positionally it's really bad here for black. Queen on b7 was played, and now rook on c2. We have rook on c8, and now rook on d2. And again the weakness stays. d6, now we have just improved the attack on this very weak d6 pawn. If you try to get away with your knight here, of course you will lose the pawn. So here bishop on f8 was played, and now you see the problem. Now Leela plays bishop on f8, transposed it onto this diagonal, where she could have stayed in the beginning of the video. If you have noticed, in which I said that Leela should have played maybe this bishop on e7 instead of this g6 bishop on g7 idea. Now you're just simply playing again on the same idea to defend the pawn on d6, which you could have played 20 moves ago. And as I said, I still like this bishop on e7 idea much more. Here the bishop comes in move 23 on this diagonal, and okay, many moves played by black just in order to defend this d6 weakness. I think it's too passive. So g4, you see, because of this lack of space by black, white can simply continue and play straightforward. Knight on g7 was played, queen on e2. We have knight on e8 again. You see black doesn't know what to do with these pieces. Here h4, knight on f6, we have queen on f2. Now h5, we have g5, knight on e8 again, and now queen on e2, knight on c5. And okay, it's knight outpost here on c5, but it can always be kicked away with b4. But so far Stockfish plays really with patience here. Stockfish doesn't rush into anything, because if you play b4, this c4 could be maybe an object of black's attack. So far, just improve the position. Bishop on f2. We have rook on b8, because black doesn't have counterplay at all. When you have these types of position in which your opponent doesn't have counterplay at all, just play slowly and improve the position. Here you see queen on e3, we have rook on c8, and now bishop on g3. Again, aiming this d6. Again, e5 is not good. Again, with the same idea, knight on e2, knight on c3, knight on d5. So here, bishop on g7 was played, bishop on f2, rook on rook on d8. We have bishop on g3, rook on c8, and here Leela probably thought, okay, now I can gain a draw here, because if the position repeats. But now knight on c2 was played by Stockfish, and now Stockfish goes for the attack. It's important now to get the pawns rolling. It's important to create maybe this f4, f5 pawn breakthrough, which will really weaken the castle king here. Here, knight on d7 was played, and now f4. Many possibilities here for white. We can play f5, we can play e5, we can also maybe try b4 c5 ideas if the position allows. So really nice flexibility here for white in this game. And here Leela played b5, and this is now a really deep calculation here by Stockfish. So that's why I think that Stockfish is slightly better than Leela, because this b5, it really leads into complications, in which of course Stockfish is the master. Here e5 was played by Stockfish. An unbelievable move, because here after, if you try c takes b5, then you of course just lose the piece. But here after e5, here d5 was played by Leela, and now it's a different position, because here Stockfish played c takes d5 anyway. So rook takes on c2, and here d takes e6 was played by Stockfish. So you see, this is now really a problem, because you have to react. If you play f takes e6, then of course you'll simply lose the piece, although the material is equal. But in a couple of moves we can play maybe bishop on d3 and attack this very weak g6 pawn. This e6 pawn is also a weakness. So in order to improve this d6 b6 weaknesses here, Leela created many weaknesses on the other side. So here after d takes e6, knight on f8 was played. And okay, maybe you could pause the video and try now to find the best continuation, because it's a brutal move played by Stockfish here. It's really something else. It's from another dimension, and I would love here for you to pause the video and find really the best move here. So it's really a nice move. It's the move rook on d7, and very nice move here. After knight on d7, we have rook takes on d7, and the queen has to move. Here queen on c6 was played, and now very brutal move, e takes f7. So king on h7. If you try maybe king on f8, then here we can play f takes e8 with a promotion. After rook takes on e8, then you get queen on a7, and you cannot defend this bishop anymore. You have a very strong weakness here on the 7th rank. Basically, you have a completely winning position here for white. The activity of white's pieces on the 7th rank is too much. Here after king on h7, here Stockfish plays very strong f8 with the promotion to queen, and you cannot take the queen because of the spin. So that's why queen takes on d7 was played, and now queen on b4. So let's now evaluate the position. We have now the two rooks for the queen, but you see white has two pawns. We have also always the possibility to play the move f5 just to open somehow the position around black's king. We have a very nice position with the bishops, which are good protectors for the king. So here rook on c1 was played, and now bishop on e1, queen on g4, queen on g3, and okay, here maybe the best move for black would have even be to trade off the queens and hope here for a draw, but these two pawns I think are too much. Here after queen on g4 and queen on g3, queen on e6 was played, but that's even worse because queen on f3 was played, king on h8, and now this idea, bishop on d3, simply playing on this g6 weakness, queen on f7. Now we have queen on e4. You see this pawn is basically unprotectable. Here rook takes on e1 was played, but that's not the problem. Queen takes on e1 and a5. You see Leela doesn't know what to do anymore here. Black's pieces are really paralyzed. You see this knight, it was really stuck on this very annoying square on e8. It doesn't move, it doesn't have good squares anyway. It's basically can only play here on c7, but it's too slow to get this knight working. Queen on e4 was played, queen on a7 with the check. It's not a problem. King on g2, a4, queen takes on g6, king on g8. We have queen on d5. You see these weaknesses on like squares now. King on f8, queen on e6, and here rook on c2 was played. In this position Leela resigned because there's no protection against this queen on g8 idea, and of course it's a winning game for white. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it myself because this deep analysis, these deep calculations by Stockfish, this pawn breakthrough in this game, I would think it was something special. And as I said, I think Stockfish is slightly better in these types of games because it has, I think, a deeper calculation ability, and Leela, I think, is better in this positional games. In these tactical ones, I think Stockfish is still better. So let's see what's gonna happen in the continuation. My predictions, as I said, you can also predict and send me your opinions into my inbox. I think that Stockfish is gonna win this match game with 1 point difference, and okay, let's see who's gonna be right at the end. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video. Meanwhile, you can watch my other chess games played by computers, and you can also watch my best chess games of all time series if you want to see the best chess games that have been ever played in chess history. And you can also subscribe to my channel. Thanks you for watching, guys, and chess is the best, of course.